morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Special Council Information Session of Tuesday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day, as Councillor O'Reilly is obviously reminding us of. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest in today's agenda? Seeing none, it's just an information session, so we're just here to listen to some updates, no decisions to be made by Council. I just want to note Councillor Elmsley is not here today. He was on a cruise a week ago and he has chosen to self-quarantine himself out of an abundance of caution. Wanted to lead by example, certainly not showing any symptoms or anything, just thought he should stay away for a while as we are all being recommended to do if out of the country. So we'll move into item 4.1 as an update. We're just going to go through a few different updates and then I'll finish things off with a continuity update to the community. First up is Ron Taylor. Just a quick update on the business continuity plan from a city perspective. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, I want to thank you for this opportunity to provide an update to the public, to Council, on how us as the employer or the corporation is responding to and managing this pandemic event. And as you can appreciate, and I know you know, things are changing daily, and I'm quite confident and happy that we have a good cross-section of professionals that are responding and reacting very quickly. So I'm going to just provide you with a general overview of what we've been doing, sort of over about the last week. And if you have any questions, we have our team here to be able to provide you that. But this update is more focused specifically on the employer and our reaction and management of our resources and services moving forward. So as you can appreciate, even last week, there was daily news. We were tracking the events and information that were coming out from a multitude of sources. Really where I saw the major or massive shift was on Thursday, March 12th. There was a number of significant announcements that were made at all levels of government, federal, provincial, and also through those respective medical health officials, sort of providing guidance to the public, to employers, how we should be managing during this event. The city then responded or made several announcements on Friday related to some immediate service changes. And these were both announcements made externally to the community, but then also internally to our employees. We activated what we term our pandemic response team. So we have a business continuity plan in place that we're consistently updating, dependent on the event that we're working through. But this team was called together. It's our internal employer group. At the same time, we also called our Emergency Operations Control Group, our EOC, as you know, and you're going to hear a little bit more about that group later on the agenda. And as you can appreciate, being an employer of over 1,200 staff, right now, or in the past, we were delivering over 200 programs and services. We needed to mobilize immediately and make some decisions in terms of how we were going to do business. But it was really guided, I think, by three principles or three priorities, and we've stayed consistent to those throughout. Number one, guiding was the health and safety of people. So that's all of our staff. That's you as council members, any volunteers that are doing business on our behalf, the public that are accessing our programs and services, and any of those family members or contacts that those groups have. So that was paramount. That is guiding all of our decisions in the immediate term. Number two, we need to make sure that we're maintaining essential services. And you're going to hear later on in the agenda, particularly through the mayor, how we're managing those essential services and moving forward on that front. Thirdly, or the other priority, we don't know what we don't know. We don't know if this is going to be 2 weeks, 2 months, or longer. And so we have other services. They may be deemed non-essential, but they're important functions that we do as a public municipality. So we need to make sure that we're constantly looking forward and making sure that the business isn't disrupted on a long-term basis. So these are our three sort of guiding priorities. We're going to continue to make sure they're all top of mind. As I mentioned, the Mayor's going to talk about our community response in particular, and detailed service continuation and disruptions. And I can assure you that this is going to be ongoing and we'll have regular updates. On the agenda as well, you're going to hear about our communications, sort of how we're communicating internally, how we're going to be communicating with you, and how we're communicating with the public and our partners that are also delivering messages through this event. Our pandemic response team I mentioned, so our employer team, co-chaired by me as well as Director Stover. We're working on basically a daily basis right now, and with our senior management team, most are here or represented, other corporate services reps and staff, and we're going to continue to work with our departments and staff on an ongoing basis and manage our resources to make sure that those essential services are maintained. I also want to assure you, you'll hear it, I'm sure, from other speakers later, our essential emergency services, paramedics, fire and police services, they need to make sure that we need to make sure they're constantly resourced and can manage in the immediate term, and I'm quite confident that they're able to do that, and those leaders are here today as well. As staff, we're also going to work with our contractors, so we have some services that are delivered by third parties, or we have major projects that we're committed to and we've been managing, and I know you appreciate we're going to try to balance sort of the priorities I mentioned before, but at the same time keeping the business driving and moving forward. We're going to, as an administration, we're going to continue to make decisions based on the best information that's available to us at the moment or at the time, and I will assure you that, again, our number one goal is to maintain that essential service. You're going to hear about meetings coming forward, or lack of meetings in the immediate term. There's a council meeting on Thursday where we're going to tidy up some business. The Mayor will talk a little bit more about that. One of the things from an administration standpoint, because we're suspending certain meetings, we will be recommending or asking Council on Thursday to provide some delegated authority to staff, to me in particular, as you would do similar in an election mode standing, so that we can continue to make decisions, at least in the immediate term. So happy to answer any questions about that. And certainly daily, I appreciate everybody in this room is hearing from lots of different voices and interests, and I just want to make sure that you're very comfortable. I certainly appreciate the Mayor and all of Council on a daily basis, keeping us updated and working together and supporting what we're trying to do as an employer and as maintaining those important services. So with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll just open to any questions, and certainly if there's any questions that you have about any particular services or response, happy to answer those. Thank you.
Any questions from council? I'll just ask you to put up your hand because you're kind of all over the place, so you push a button, I won't know where to look. Anything on that particular part of the update? Nope, thank you. Okay, we'll move into item 4.2. We're going to get an update from Mark Pankhurst, the Chief of Fire Services, regarding the Emergency Control Group. Welcome, Chief.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So just as I started, I'd just like to provide just a real brief overview of the purpose of the City Emergency Plan. So the main purpose is to assist the City with continuing to provide essential, critical services that protect our residents and visitors during an emergency, and in this particular case, with a possible reduction in the workforce. So that's kind of the guiding principle of overall emergency plan. So our emergency control group, we enacted that yesterday, and basically it mirrors the SMT group that's in this room. In addition to that, we have Kawartha Lakes Police Service and OPP, and because of the nature of this, pandemic possible emergency, the health unit is our primary, external group or agency that are working with us, and they're here today as well too. So some of the general responsibilities and functions. So yesterday we met, we set some of the general responsibilities and functions of the EOC are to set priorities and strategic direction. We collect information, we evaluate the information, and we disseminate the information. We look at the management of resources, and we also look at finance and administration approvals. And as an example, the EOC met yesterday, as I said, and each member provided an update from their respective service division and included what core critical services will continue to be provided by the city, what services should be suspended based on best practices and/or provincial federal recommendations. A task list was developed for further discussion and planning, and a business cycle was established, and the EOC will meet on a weekly basis as required. And that's basically it for now. The CAO has talked about some of the activities that rolled out of that, and I'm available to answer any questions.
Chief, can you just let us know why, I've had several questions about declaring a state of emergency. Can you ask us why that, just inform us why that's not necessary at this point?
Yes, that question is a great question, and I know it's of a lot of concern, as it was last year during the flood season. So basically, when you declare an emergency, it's really when our local resources are exhausted. There's going to be great costs associated. We will be relying on provincial assistance, neighboring assistance. It's basically when we cannot provide the day-to-day services within our own resources any longer. That's usually the trigger point. There's trigger points before that. It's when we really start to feel the surge of a pending emergency. Hopefully we'll come to that realization before it's too late. I'm confident we will do that. That's why we have the business cycle with our EOC. And then we will declare the emergency, and that just opens up access to all those resources that we just don't have in-house here.
And we've agreed to activate our EOC over the next 2 weeks, just to meet on Mondays for the next 2 weeks to stay on top of the situation, correct?
That's correct. We have a business cycle with our internal staff, and then we have a business cycle that runs back-to-back with our EOC group that I described, which mirrors SMT, our health unit, and our policing partners.
Thank you, sir. Any questions for the chief on that part of the update? Seeing none, we'll move into item 4.3, which is an update regarding public relations and communications. Ashley Locke, our communications, advertising, and marketing officer, is going to give us an update. Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And through you, I just wanted to give an example of the different types of communication tools that we have in place to make sure that the public are staying informed. That's the most important thing we can reiterate. And as the CAO and Fire Chief mentioned, this is a joint message across with our health unit, the province, and the federal government. So the first thing I want to give an example to is, let's see if I can get this to work. So as I mentioned, things are changing hourly, and it's vital to ensure that you're staying informed. The health unit has great information. This is a wonderful resource to go on their website and learn about what's happening, current updates in place, and as well what you can do to help keep yourself and your family safe. There's an online assessment tool that you can use, and I know the mayor will be mentioning this shortly, that can help you identify how you're feeling and answer those screening questions that you will also get should you contact telehealth or the health unit's phone number. Now, on our website, we do have a dedicated page. It's kawarthalakes.ca/COVID-19. As we're getting communications funneled through from many different parties, we're trying to echo that message in one place so that the public can find it all for an ease of access. So you'll find important information, including contact information for the local health unit, and as well a link off to that assessment tool. Another thing that you can do to make sure that you're staying informed is subscribing to our newsroom. Every update that we receive, every daily communication we put out, gets sent directly through our newsroom, so kawarthalakes.ca/subscribe, and you will be able to receive emails directly to your inbox as soon as we are putting them out. We also have a municipal app called Ping Street, that's PINGSTREET. It's free to download for both Apple and Android, and it allows us to send out emergency notifications similar to the Amber Alerts that you get on your phone, just letting you know what's going on, and we can ping those mobile phones in the case of an emergency. We understand that not everyone is online as well, so we are working with traditional forms, radio, print, television, magazines, just to make sure that we're reiterating that message to all of our audiences in the municipality. For those of you who are unsure who to contact, We also do have our customer service staff here to help. We have a dedicated extension for COVID-19. So if you call into our customer service line 705-324-9411 and dial extension 4000, you'll also get the most up-to-date information. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions regarding the communications portion for Ashley? Oh, we're just flying along here, aren't we? Okay, why do I have a feeling I'm going to get all the questions? Okay, so a couple things. I'm going to start with, well, we're item 4.4, which is a service continuity to the community. So I just want to reiterate, as of this fast-moving situation, as of 8:30 this morning, the province declared a state of emergency. Some of their comments, we're facing an unprecedented time. COVID-19 constitutes a danger of major proportions, and they offer full support and every power possible to help our healthcare centers fight the spread. The first order they're issuing would be the prohibition of organized events of over 50 people until March 31st. The following establishments are to be closed immediately: all facilities providing recreation programs, all public libraries, all public schools, all daycare centers, all bars and restaurants unless they provide takeout and delivery, all theaters, including dance and cinemas. All of those of the above are to be closed immediately. What this means is this is not a provincial shutdown. The vast majority of businesses will not be affected. The health and well-being of every Ontarian must be the #1 priority, and the Government of Ontario is taking every step possible to take the right measures while our system is strong and to ensure it remains strong in the days and months ahead. They want to ensure calmness, and no expense will be spared to protect Ontarians as we work our way through this virus. So that's a statement from the province as of 8:30 this morning. I'll move on to some municipally what we're looking to do. From a municipal point of view, all our essential services will obviously continue. Safe water will always be a top priority in the city. There will be no compromises made in any way regarding our ability to provide safe water to our residents. Road services will continue. Half loads are in effect and will remain in effect, and winter control or events and spring flooding will all be managed through our Public Works Department. Curbside waste pickup will continue as scheduled. Public access to all landfill sites will be closed as of the end of today until further notice. They will be open to approved contractors and will continue to receive septage, however you want to pronounce it. Lindsay Transit will continue on a regular schedule for now. We recognize the importance and the need for this service. We will be doing enhanced cleaning of the buses as a precaution, and we will be waiving fees for transit for the protection of our drivers and riders. People need to know that we cannot guarantee minimum separation distance on a bus. It's not possible. The limo service will continue, but only for medical priority calls. Personal task request bookings will be discontinued immediately, and fees will be waived as well for this service until further notice. All city buildings in the city of Kawartha Lakes will be closed to public access as of end of day today, Tuesday, March 17th, until April 5th, when we will reassess the situation. All community halls and all centers in the city will be closed as of end of today. All service centers will be closed to the public as of the end of today. And all fire halls will be closed to the public and be available, obviously, for emergency services only. All museums and sitting buildings will be closed as of the end of today. Our human services offices in Lindsay and Haliburton will be closed to the public. All services having Ontario Works and children's service, all service housing, Ontario Works and children's services can contact staff by phone. Rent payments for subsidized housing arrangements will still need to be made. Please give staff a call. Victoria Manor, as has already been told, is currently under essential visitors only, as are all long-term care homes. Stay away unless absolutely necessary. All committees and boards of council are cancelled as of Thursday. All planning meetings, committee of adjustment, committee of the whole, and council meetings will be cancelled through to the end of April, and we will reassess at that time. We are moving next Tuesday's regular council meeting to this Thursday, March 19th. This is to wrap up some existing council business only. Myself and council will not be attending public events or public meetings until further notice. This is a very fluid situation, and we will adjust and set up what we need to keep the business of the city moving forward and our residents as safe as possible. These are initial steps only. I want to talk about the hospital a little bit. They've set up an assessment center drive-through. There's a bit of confusion around the messaging. You must be referred to attend the assessment center at the hospital. You can't just show up and get in line. You're going to be turned away. So you either need to be referred through our local health unit or by doing a self-assessment, which you saw the form online earlier. We have it on our website. Fill out the form. At the end of the form, it will tell you whether you need to report or not, and it will give you that opinion, and then and only then should you be attending the hospital self-assessment drive-through. That will be online on our website as of today. Other than that, this is today. Tomorrow is tomorrow. We will see how long this goes. But we as a community have to make these sacrifices to protect the most vulnerable in our community. Most of us won't get sick or show symptoms even if we do. That doesn't mean we don't have a responsibility to try and protect everyone. Some will say we are overreacting. I sure hope they're right. I would rather be criticized for overreacting than wait and as a result someone's mother or father falls ill or worse. We will get through this. I have full confidence in the teams that we have in place, and our healthcare providers are all stepping up to the plate. Thanks for tuning in today, and don't hesitate to reach out to our customer service if you need clarification or you have any questions. We will continue hourly to monitor the federal and provincial updates, and the health unit continues to be the main point of contact for information regarding this virus. Is there any questions regarding anything I've talked about here today from Council? Councillor Riley? Microphone.
Just a quick one, Mr. Mayor. If there was a provincial or a federal update that precipitated or caused an emergency council meeting, would that just be at your request after the council meeting this Thursday?
Sorry, I'm not understanding.
Well, say if something came down from the province or something that would affect our municipality and municipalities of Ontario to necessitate a council meeting, that would just be like after Thursday, that would just your call, and the CEO and the emergency services would call that?
Yeah, if necessary, we can call an emergency council meeting with 24 hours notice. We're also exploring other options, phone in, Skype in, are there other ways we can conduct meetings if needed at this time, but we only need 24 hours notice if necessary to call an emergency council meeting, and we will do so if required.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a quick question. The CAO referred to delegation of authorities and so on and so forth. So it's a joint question. Number one, I'm going to assume that'll be discussed at the council meeting. And number two, could you give me an example of what we're talking about?
I'll turn it over to the CAO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So number one, the fact that there isn't another meeting until at least May after Thursday. I'm recommending, or was recommending through to the mayor, that you should at least delegate some authority to continue with business. So for example, if we were committed or needed to make a commitment for procurement above what would be typical sort of procurement sort of levels internally versus council approval, I could make those determinations. Similar to when council is, let's say, in a lame duck circumstance. So I would be recommending that you delegate the same authority in that circumstance. It talks about hiring and firing of officials sort of throughout the city in certain levels. It talks about certain land transactions that would exceed $50,000. So it's the typical sort of parameters, but the main one being to have some delegated authority for critical procurement decisions. In that process, like we have in the past, in delegating that, I've always committed to updating council or keeping council informed of what those decisions are. And certainly, I know in speaking with the mayor, we would continue to make those decisions in the very immediate term in tandem, and then update council as that occurs.
And that'll be spelled out clearly on the report that comes on Thursday. So we can, if you need to get into more details, I think it'll clarify it pretty clear. Yep.
Just, I'm in the building trade, so I'm going to ask a question that I've been asked already. Building inspectors, will they still be on the job doing external inspections going forward?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, so great question. So in general, so we've challenged departments to look at maintenance of service, important service, and essential service. And so as of yesterday, I've had some updates with respect to important services that we want to maintain. So we're looking at protocols to maintain building inspections, fire inspections, water shut-off and inspections in the immediate term. We're likely going to be building different protocols, so it'll be by appointment only. We will have certain protocols for staff when they're entering premises, but we are looking at least in the immediate term, maintaining that. Now, we may be suspending certain types of inspections, particularly where there are existing dwellings where there are occupants already, but for new builds, ones where there isn't a health and safety concern, we would be trying to continue that operation.
So, yep, go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, it kind of brought up another question. Certain departments or certain endeavors, I guess, there's time limits in place, such as planning, for example. We're not going to be meeting again. Planning meetings aren't going to be happening for at least 6 weeks. Time extensions. Will this extra authority allow you to extend those time limits that are imposed upon outside organizations? Because they're not going to be able to deliver and have discussions with our planning staff, from what I'm understanding, about upcoming issues. It could have an impact on them meeting their requirements to do certain things and us meeting our requirements to do certain things. Could you just sort of expand on that?
Sure. So through you, Mr. Mayor. So you're describing, again, what I would characterize as sort of important services to maintain versus essential or non-essential. So I know that the planning department and staff are looking at options. As you can appreciate, right now we've got fairly significant constraints in place over the next almost 3 weeks. So meetings, decisions of that nature are going to be suspended. There are applications or projects that are in the queue, if you will, and we're going to look at sort of maintaining business as best possible, but at the same time sort of recognizing what staff resources we have or third-party partners externally that we have. But we will be continuing to look at sort of options to maintain at least those that are already in the queue. And I'm sure we will have sort of further guidance in the coming weeks. And certainly in April, although we're not having meetings, we're going to be trying to maintain those sort of core non-essential services in the meantime as well.
So we have the health unit here, we have the fire paramedics. Is there any questions regarding any of those services that, while everybody's together, that anybody would like to, Public Works is here, get clarification on? Yep.
There's no questions for any of those people, but it's long been debated about the pros and cons of having meetings via teleconference and stuff. And is anybody approaching the province at this time to allow that in an emergency situation?
I believe our clerk is looking into it just to see what parameters are allowed, you know, with regarding quorum and such else. So there might be a need for the province to relax some of those rules depending on how long this goes. I know that they're on it and they're just finding out the details, and we'll certainly keep everybody posted the best we can. Councillor Ashmore?
Through you to the CAO. I haven't been asked this, but if people are having difficulty paying their rent payments to social housing, or their property tax installments, say for example, if you're on contract and you can't earn income and you're going to be late making a payment, you're going to be given a a penalty, but will those penalties still apply? And as usual, if you're late paying your taxes, or you have some difficulty trying to pay taxes?
I'm glad that's directed at you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So in the very immediate term, we're still sort of managing our business as usual, if you will. Maybe unusual in terms of the resources to support it, but certainly those payments we would still expect to occur. You had heard earlier that there are alternatives or other ways to either contact staff or work with staff on the details. And I hope, and I'm sure you can appreciate at this point, we are also monitoring that if this event continues on, we certainly recognize that there are going to be ongoing hardships on families and on the public. And so we would be bringing back to council other opportunities or transitional type recommendations to assist our citizens. But in the very immediate term, the next 2 to 3 weeks, we'll say it's sort of business as usual, but with alternative contacts at this time.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you. Thank you all for coming, and who's ever tuned in. CAO, myself, Chief Pankhurst, I'll put Mr. Rafton on the spot, our paramedic chief, and say we'll be available in the Victoria room for a few minutes afterwards if anybody wants, and maybe the health unit, if anybody wants to have any questions or concerns about anything that we haven't covered here today. We'll do that now. Other than that, we'll adjourn, and I appreciate everybody coming, and we'll keep everybody up to date. I've been in contact daily with our MPP, Laurie Scott. She's been updating me on the province, so we'll continue to keep those forms of communication open and pass on to everybody we need. I know our communications department has got a good handle on this right now. We're putting out the message the best we can, and we will continue to do that. And in the meantime, everybody stay safe. Thank you.